Hello everyone and welcome to this session on living in the UAE. This session will take approximately 30 minutes to complete. My name is Shanae Rousseau. I'm the whole school teaching and learning coach at James Cambridge International Private School, Sharjah. Aims for the session: to gain essential information on living in the UAE, to understand the law, culture, customs and traditions of the UAE, and to identify sensitive and banned content in lessons. This is the content we'll be covering in this session. We will look at the location and geography of the United Arab Emirates. We will then discover essential information and things you need to know to prepare for your move over here. We will look at the do's and the don'ts, and then finally we will look at banned content in lessons. The United Arab Emirates is located at the eastern end of the Arabian Peninsula. It borders Oman and Saudi Arabia. The UAE is an elective monarchy formed from a federation of 7 emirates. Each emirate is governed by a sheikh, and one of them serves as the president of the United Arab Emirates. Abu Dhabi is the capital city, located in the Emirate of Abu Dhabi. The climate of the UAE is subtropical with hot summers and warm winters. The country is made up of desert dunes, rugged mountains, and breathtaking sandy beaches. As mentioned before, the UAE is made up of 7 emirates. The president of the UAE is Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, who is the ruler of Abu Dhabi. And second in command, the prime minister of the UAE is Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, who is the ruler of Dubai. The nationality of the people in the UAE is Emirati or Emiratis. Men would traditionally wear a kandora and women would wear an abaya. The language spoken in the UAE is Arabic, although because it is host to such a large population of expats, English is widely spoken and understood. Here are a few Arabic phrases. You would say hello, which would be salam alaikum, or if someone says hello to you, you would respond by saying alaikum salam. Thank you would be shukran, and you will definitely hear inshallah quite a lot, which means God willing. The religion in the UAE is Islam, and a lot of the customs, traditions, and culture are governed by the Islamic or Sharia law. It is a modest and respectful tradition, and we will look a little bit more in detail at the do's and the don'ts later on. The UAE is actually home to a variety of international cuisine. You can pretty much get anything your heart desires. However, if you're craving something local, you would look for meat, fish, or rice dishes. Lamb and mutton are more preferred meats. Dates are usually consumed with meals, and popular beverages are coffee and tea, which can be supplemented with cardamom, saffron, or mint to give a distinct flavor. Transportation would be the metro, buses, taxis, and rental cars. Let's talk about the lifestyle. Not only will you earn a tax-free salary, but you will actually have a very high standard of living. It is a very safe country with international shops, restaurants, and products, shopping malls with well-known brands. Dubai and Abu Dhabi are well known for lively weekday and weekend events. In pretty much any emirate you go to, you would have access to outdoor sports and activities. Staycations would be a favorite among the people here, where you can visit beaches and hotels. And of course, with UAE being an international travel hub, you will have access to many, many other countries. Let's take a few moments to reflect on what we've covered so far. We looked at the location and geography of the UAE, and we covered essential information and things worth knowing to prepare for your move over here. Do's and don'ts. As mentioned before, a lot of the culture, customs, and etiquettes are governed by the Sharia or Islamic law. Let's look at dress code. Do dress modestly, particularly in conservative areas and public places. Do not wear clothing that is transparent or that exposes the stomach. Women should cover their shoulders when visiting indoor public places and avoid wearing skirts or shorts that are too tight or too short. Do wear swimwear at private pools or beaches, but cover up when swimming somewhere else. When visiting mosques, men should wear trousers, while women should cover their hair with scarves. Don't engage in cross-dressing. This is frowned upon by the country's authorities. Don't wear shirts that are offensive to the religion and culture. Gestures. Don't display any obscene hand gestures in public. And the following should be considered while speaking to someone who is local or Muslim. Don't point your finger, gesture using your whole hand instead. Do stand up when meeting new people, especially older people. When a woman enters the room, men are also expected to stand up. Don't offer pork or alcohol to Muslim guests. Don't offer to shake hands with a member of the opposite sex who is Muslim. It is customary for them to offer their hand first before shaking them, and please don't be offended if they do not offer to shake your hand. Do accept food and drink with your right hand. This is also the hand you should eat with. Don't cross your legs, show the soles of your feet, or point your toes at anyone. In public, do buy alcohol at licensed hotels and bars, provided you are 21 and older. Don't drink and drive. Drunk driving is met with zero tolerance in the UAE. Don't drink in public. It is strictly prohibited, and so is having alcohol or illegal substances in possession at any time. This still means that you can, however, drink at restaurants and hotels. Being drunk and disorderly in public is unacceptable and may result in a fine or worse. Do ask permission before you take a picture of a national or a resident of the UAE, especially if the subject is a woman. Public displays of affection should be minimal. Holding hands is acceptable, but kissing and hugging in public is not. Don't use bad language, make offensive gestures, or show disrespect to the country's leaders, culture, or religion. Other important guidelines to bear in mind: please do adhere to traffic laws. You will get a fine if you don't. Do be careful about what you post on social media. Do not share private details about another person without his or her consent. Do not post content that is offensive to Islamic morals and values. Cohabitation of unmarried couples is now permitted. However, having a baby out of wedlock, abortion, adultery, and homosexuality are still against the law. Fundraising for charity and promotion of charity or humanitarian organizations can only be done through legally approved channels, for example, the Red Crescent. Ramadan. This is the month when Muslims fast from sunrise to sunset as part of their religion. Please don't eat, drink, or smoke in public. In fact, during this time, it is against the law. Don't eat in front of fasting colleagues. Do respect the prayer time of fasting colleagues. Please don't play loud music. Don't wear revealing or tight clothing, but do attend an iftar after sunset. Just a note on the different emirates then. Dubai is the tourist capital of the UAE, which means that it's definitely the most westernized city of all of them. And you will find that a lot of the rules and the traditions have become quite relaxed in Dubai. Abu Dhabi is the capital of the UAE, also quite a westernized city. However, it still has a mix of traditional customs and is slightly more conservative. Sharjah is the cultural capital of the UAE. It is very conservative, and it is also a dry emirate, which means you will not be allowed to purchase or to sell alcohol in Sharjah. Ajman is the smallest of the emirates, and it is quite conservative as well. Al Quwain, famous for its fishing industry, also quite conservative. Fujairah is famous for its mountains, beaches, and diving spots. Although it is known as a tourist destination, still be respectful because a lot of the locals are still quite conservative.
As well as Ras Al Khaimah, famous for its mountains and beaches, it's a popular tourist destination, but again quite conservative. Let's reflect on what we covered in this section on the do's and the don'ts. We looked at the culture, customs, and etiquette of living in the UAE, and we also looked briefly at the different emirates. And remember, if ever in doubt, don't do it. This brings us to the last part of this session, teaching in the UAE, looking at Ministry of Education's banned content. The following content should not be included in lessons: mentioning Israel as a country, Judaism as a religion, or anything mentioning Jews or Jewish symbols. Mentioning World War II topics, dealing with Hitler and the Holocaust should not be included. And although practicing Christianity is permitted in the UAE, reference to this religion, Jesus and key dates in the Christian calendar, it's not included in educational curricula or celebrations in most emirates. As you can see at the bottom, here are some of the symbols that should also be avoided. Now, again, worth mentioning, some schools might not be as strict, so please do check with your members of your SLT to ensure that you include or do not include appropriate material. When referencing the geography of the UAE, please refrain from saying the Persian Gulf. It is now known as the Arabian Gulf. Again, the following content is not permitted in lessons: deformation of the Islamic religion or the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Muhammad or any of the other prophets in Islam should not be pictured in any way. Deformation of the government, the history, the heritage, or society of the UAE is not permitted, and so is stepping on the UAE flag or using it as a piece of clothing is also not permitted. Looking specifically at curricula for older students, evolution as a factual account of man's development shouldn't be included in lessons. Male and female reproduction in science should not be included. Promoting negative habits such as drug abuse, mixing of men and women, promiscuity, and drinking alcohol, etc. should not be included. Writings on alcohol, love scenes, non-Muslim worshipping, and entertainment places like nightclubs should definitely be avoided, and so should same-sex relationships. Again, when teaching older students, some of these rules might not be as strict, particularly looking at GCSE, but again, please check with your respective members of SLT. When teaching the younger ones, please do avoid using pigs or pork product in stories. Please avoid using black or bad magic, which includes witches or wizardry, and be careful specifically with fairy tales. Finally, let's reflect on what we covered in this part of the session. We looked at MOE banned content. Therefore, please keep a lookout when finding content in textbooks, reading books, atlases, dictionaries and thesauruses, websites, YouTube videos, and particularly when looking at resources from the UK or the USA. If ever in doubt, don't use it. We have now reached the end of this session on living in the UAE. Our aims for the session were to gain essential information on living in the UAE, to understand the law, culture, customs and traditions of the UAE, and to identify sensitive and banned content in lessons. A few questions to consider. Has your view on living in the UAE changed in this session? Why? And why not? What information did you find useful in preparation for your move abroad? What do you feel has been the most important thing you have taken away from this session? And how will you use it in your new context?
The takeaway then, the UAE is a wonderful, safe and thriving country to live in. Respecting the UAE's laws, customs, culture and tradition is an essential part of living in this country, and abiding by the educational content guidelines is vital to your success as a teacher in the UAE. Thank you, everyone.